All right. What's going on, Nina and Addie? Thank you so much for joining me here on Vonvo.com. And we're definitely going to just go right into our discussion about the current crisis going on here in Israel. So thanks for joining me. Nina, you want to start? How about you tell us where you're currently located in Israel and what's going on, and then followed by Addie.
Okay. So right now I'm on a kibbutz next to Rehovot. I'm about 10 minutes outside of Rehovot and about 45 minutes outside of Tel Aviv.
Okay. And Addie, where are you speaking from?
I'm speaking from my parents' house in Ra'anana. That's 15 minutes northern of Tel Aviv. I came here a week ago because I live in Beersheba. I'm a student in the university there. And we had to pretty quickly, so I'm right here.
Got it. And now, Nina, what in terms of missiles and sirens going off? What exactly is going on by you? Is that a constant thing right now, currently over the past few days?
Over the past few days, I've heard a couple of distant sounds of Iron Dome and rockets being fired, and I've heard echoes of sirens, but in my location, we haven't had a siren go off yet. So we're just continuing with our daily lives here, but for the last probably about an hour and a half, I heard rockets been getting fired off.
Got it. Okay. How about by you, Addie? Sirens, rockets. When you were in Beersheba, what was going on over there?
Where I am now, there's not really any rockets. That's why I came here. But sometimes you hear echoes from sirens in Tel Aviv, and a few days, like yesterday and the day before, I was with my brother in the hospital, and we heard sirens there because the hospital was in Tel Aviv. That's it. In Beersheba usually is where I get to hear more sirens and more rockets and deceptions.
Yeah, and so I when I was watching the news just before, I actually heard that Beersheba, I think recently in the past few hours got, rocked with some missiles. Is that what you guys are hearing as well over in that city? Because that's a pretty big city, correct?
Yeah, it's a huge city. It's the biggest city in southern Israel. That's pretty much what we're hearing here as well. Sadly, I heard that it fell pretty close to where I live. I'm still hoping that that when I get back to Beersheba, my apartment will be there.
Yep.
It's sad, but
Vonvo is like all about a place. My website is all about where individuals can come and like express their opinion. We want to, allow people to get other perspectives than just simply what the news has to offer. What do you think about the publicity that Israel gets only as soon as when they decide to begin defending themselves? What's your take on how, let's say, CNN or BBC portrays what's going on there when it actually escalates, but yet they don't decide to talk about it when it's happening for months and years before?
well, for me, I look at it as that it's really unfair that Israel is portrayed like as a offensive army that's attacking Gaza, that doesn't have a right to defend itself, and after the fact that people really, or like media really only looks at Israel for a very small portion of their newscast,
Yeah.
and that it's usually in a negative light, unfortunately, and that any new media network or like social media sites are really actually beneficial, and then they can be like also not so good. People are constantly updating Facebook with news from different stations, from different sources, and depending on what the sources is from, they can be completely biased or they can be just completely propaganda, and so it's a little like frustrating to see.
What about you, Addie? What's your take on that?
I have to say it's truly frustrating for an Israeli to be watching CNN and BBC. The other day when all this just started, I was looking around, and CNN's website and BBC's website and even Al Jazeera's website, and I seriously thought that what they had on Al Jazeera was better than CNN,
Really?
which is absurd. It's frustrating because I don't understand what reason they have for not being objective about what they're showing. It's also hard that you see every time they put like an IDF spokesman and they interview him on CNN or on BBC, he's talking, and whilst he's talking, there's like pictures of kids crying and kids in hospitals in Gaza, and like, wow, I just want to, they ask the most ignorant questions when they interview. They literally insult people with their opinions, and
yeah,
it's frustrating, really.
Yeah.
I wish I could like turn them off and shout out my own thing if I could.
Well, that's why you have Vonvo right now to really express that opinion, because that's really what we want to. I think ultimately it comes down to citizens being able to spread the word a little bit better than ultimately what they might hear on the news, right?
Definitely.
Okay. Are either of you friends? I mean, Nina, you might not be able to answer just because you've only been there for 3 months, but are either of you friends with any Arabs, Palestinians, whether they live inside the Israeli borders or outside the Israeli borders? Nina, if you have a quick answer because you've only just moved there, you can answer first if you'd like.
Well, so I only have moved here for 3 months, but last year I lived here for 9 months on a program, and I volunteered at a school in Jerusalem. It's called the Hand in Hand School, and the school is meant for Israelis, Arabs, Palestinians, and of all religions. It's one big school.
Yep.
And so when I was there, I worked alongside Arabs, and I worked in the preschool actually, but I was able to meet some of the students that go there. The principal was Arab and considered herself Palestinian, and it's an interesting. It was an interesting place to work at and see the coexistence there.
So people were getting along fine there?
Yeah. They have their arguments, and we talked to some of the older students, the students in high school, and they have their arguments and they have their opinions, but in the end they still are friends because they ended up growing up with each other and learning how to argue about things.
Yep.
And make it so that their arguments don't hurt their friendships or their opinions don't hurt their friendships, and that they're able to see past all the problems here. And it was very interesting too because from both sides you have the Israelis who against the army, and they have their friends who are Arabs and who they know that someday they might have to face each other in a situation of war. So it's very interesting that happens for them.
But overall, overall watching that coexistence, there was no real, hardships that you saw during that time. Like it was two ethnicities living side by side with each other and going to school together.
Definitely.
That's crazy. What about you, Addie?
I haven't had the privilege to meet any Palestinians like personally, like like having them close to me or whatever. I also think it's really important to make the difference between Palestinians and Israeli Arabs. There's tons of them in my university. Every time you go to Jerusalem, you're surrounded by Arabs and Palestinians. Anytime you go to natural springs around our beautiful country, you sometimes sit with Arabs and Palestinians. I never felt, any tension or anything about it. Like, it's always normal. I'm used to it. Like, also where I live in central Israel, near us, there are many, many, many Arab villages.
Yep.
Also.
So what would you say the view is that you have of Hamas, Addie? I mean, do you just have a complete hatred towards Hamas? And can we talk about maybe what Israelis are looking for? I mean, I get the impression that you guys only want peace. So what would it take to, to get peace in your eyes and inside your country?
That's a tough question. But I think I wouldn't say I can't. I think hate is such a strong and powerful word that I can never say I hate Hamas. I don't hate them. I don't know, angry. I don't understand their actions. I don't see logic in what they do. I don't understand how people in the 21st century can still have the same opinions that they do.
Yep. I totally agree. I think that's.
On the other hand,
with that last point,
as a person that tries to call himself an intellectual in some way or another, I even try to understand where the hatred comes. Why do they hate us so much? What is what's the issue with us being here? And some of the things I can understand, but I will never understand the violence. I'll never understand the pure hatred that they have for us. I'll never understand the fact that they're just not willing to have us here. The problem here is they're not willing to hear about, the two-state solution. They're not willing to hear about anything. They want to push the Jews to the sea and get rid of us and be here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'll never understand.
Yep. Well said. Nina, do you have like a hatred towards Hamas at this point? And what do you think it's going to take what would you need to see in exchange to have peace?
I agree with Eddie. I think hatred is a very strong word. But
are you asking me?
Hamas is a terrorist organization, and their ideals and the ideologies that they represent is completely skewed and corrupted and evil. And I just like a D, I don't understand why they hate us. I don't understand what their reasoning is behind it, and I don't think there will ever be an answer for it, unfortunately. Who's to say why people do what they do, and who's to say why people commit acts of terror and violence? It's truly just it's very sad.